and pleasure to connect with everybody who's in the room or connected. Again, I don't see you, but it's still a pleasure. I do have a presentation that I will be using with you today. And basically, all right, let me go in presentation mode. I hope that you see it.
Yes.
So what I decided to share with you today, it's really personal reflections, lessons I've learned throughout my work in social business, in the consulting industry, and also now in the corporate manufacturing industry. I don't know if you're seeing the presentation. Okay, yes, I see that there is a live connection. Awesome. And hopefully, what I will be sharing with you, again, is personal, but my hope is that it sparks ideas, further ideas, and further reflections also in you regarding this huge and complex topic of change management. So for me, definitely, it started and it still is a journey of exploring, discovering, and experience what change and transformations are. And so I will start with definitions on change management. What does it mean? And for me, it's why I start from here is because when people come to me and they say, whether again was in consulting or these days, oh, we need your support with change management. Are we doing enough change management? Isn't it enough? Please let us have a change management plan. I was like, in my head, it was clear what they were meaning. And then I learned that actually it wasn't. And I definitely learned more and more to ask myself, but then to every person that came to me with these statements, what do you mean when you say change management? And this is because differences in definition and understanding can really impact where we go, the direction. And the risk is that we lead in doing things that actually don't have an impact. And so I'm sharing with you here some definitions I've taken from, institutions, also Wikipedia. Why not? Because that's the first definition, when people Google, that comes out. So from ProSide being, a reference point for change management, is an enabling framework for managing the people side of change. IMD, in one of his executive programs on change management, talks about organizational transformation happens when you can engage the minds, hearts, and behaviors of the people involved. And to do so, you need a process and create context. Professional Leadership Institute, also again, an institution that has interesting programs on change management, is an organized technique that employs a structured process to effect improvement in work within organizations. And Wikipedia can't put it all together. Change management is a collective term for all approaches to prepare, support, and help individuals, teams, and organizations in making organizational change. And finally, the Association of Change Management Professionals is the practice of applying a structured approach to transition and organizations from a current state to a future state to achieve respective results. Wow. So why do we need to be aligned, really? Because if you look at, again, diverse institutions and Wikipedia, right, I do find many similarities. And then it came to mind is like, yeah, but these are like institutions that work on change management. Allow me, kind of like the expert, the practitioners. The truth is that not me at least, but also when I was in consulting, when I was in social business, these are not people who eat change management for breakfast. And so it comes to like alignment, having that, what do you mean? What is that you need? What are your expectations? But also, what can you do? What do you know? What are you knowledgeable of? What are you capable of doing in terms of like know-how, resources, timing, etc. So because change management can be, a very complex plan, or can address the challenges of the change very smoothly and easily. And so aligning on what, the people who are coming to us is It's definitely been my first conversation. It's my first conversation. And so, I have it clear. Do they really mean the people side? Do they mean hearts, minds, or whatever? Or do they mean something else? And I've learned that, it can take so many shades of gray, actually, the definition. And so that's one thing. Moving into the second, and the second is models. Let me see if I have the green slide coming out to you. Many models, one approach. And the question goes out, how many models do we know on change management? How many do I know? And the question is to you, how many models do you know about change management? First, is like, what are these models? I mean, all models have, the scope of providing guidelines so that we can build processes of planning, implementing, and sustaining the change or the transformation in the organizations. And so like the question is really, with all these many models, what approach do I take? Is this one or many, or what do I do? And so again, I go into the browsing of different models, and believe me, these are not all. I just pick some of them, which are not necessarily the ones that I refer to on my daily basis, I would say, but definitely the ones that I explore. McKinsey has his 7S model. S, right, because it's all with style and skills and systems and structure and strategy and stuff, all for shared values. ProSci has the ARCAR model. So, 7, now we have 5 elements. Kotter with these 8 steps, 3 macro area and 8 steps, with this heart of change. And for anyone who's ready, our iceberg is melting, is really the penguins going through the 8 steps of Kotter change model. The nudge theory. This is the image of the elephants from the book, but definitely talks about change. What do we need to do to address change? And then I added here the Kubler-Ross model, because it's not really, a model in itself, but yeah, it explains how change can work. But the professor Kubler-Ross actually addressed grief and grieving. And actually change also can be experienced oftentimes at grief and grieving. And so it definitely applies. There are other models that I didn't mention here for the sake of space, but the agile change management is taking more and more space. The theory U from Professor Otto Scharmer at MIT, or other institutions that definitely have, designed their own models, like the Association of Talent Development. And with those, believe me, there are many. I just took in the ones that probably you find also more easily. And so what does it mean? So there are many models. What do we do with all of them? For me, at least what I've learned is that the truth is everywhere. Nobody's wrong and everybody's right, which of course doesn't make things easy, right? But the key and what I've learned is definitely understanding them. It's what allows us to define and determine what makes sense for my organization, what makes sense for this team, what makes sense for this specific project. Knowing that one model doesn't fit all. So it's not because I choose this model as reference for the organization, it's going to be the one that I'm going to use forever. I think it's also the one that whoever is a practitioner guiding and the change in the organization needs to be comfortable with. Comfortable knowing it, understanding it, and then bringing it and spreading it throughout. But yeah, there is no one size fit all. Maybe for one project, one model will be more ideal as reference, and for another project, another model again. I do personal switch in between models, but also what I like to do, it's picking. It's kind of like cherry picking when it's cherry season. And for change management, it's always cherry season. It's more of a combination of what makes sense, because end of the day, they all have many similarities. They have differences. They have also similarities. And so really understanding what they are and is like what fits for me. It doesn't mean becoming experts really of like, oh, I have to know every model. I mean, Google give us a lot of options. There are videos. And so having really that understanding that allow us to see with different eyes, okay, what is there that is similar, what is there that different. Don't do like me that you get lost in it, because then I get very curious and sometimes stuck. I definitely happened to me. So it's good to also do this exploring journey with somebody else. They take, that we can share concerns, questions, doubts, etc. And so I definitely brought with me the big message, understanding and knowing that there is no only one solution or one perfect model. At least this is what I learned. The next lesson that comes, that I guess inspires me, and it's the one that I really, really push when I work on projects, is the start with why. Doesn't come from me. I wish I had this idea. I would be selling lots of books by now. But definitely Simon Sinek with the start with why, with the golden circle, has been for me revealing that doing the start with why, it's really golden when we work on change management. Sometimes it's even in change management is taken for granted. And there is, it's because it's easier or more like direct to focus is that, oh, what do we need to do and how are we going to do it? And oftentimes I do need to like step back, pause. Why are you doing this? And this is because, again, learning. When we say that change is happening in the organizations, really what happens is, it's not the organization itself. The organization is made of people. And so it's people that are changing. And the resistance is not on the change in itself. It's because people are being asked to change behaviors, to change the way they do things, to change the way they organize the work. And so this is the big effort. And so understanding the why, it stays at the root. Is that easy? Not always. And especially because, again, going through books and Googling, etc., I came to what are the ingredients of the why? What does it need to be there? And what I found is that there is to be the two main ingredients. One is the rational information, and the other one is emotional information. And this is because people do make decisions. Here comes the psychology, right? And people do make decisions based mostly on their emotions. And yes, they do use the data and facts to then justify and validate the decisions. And so, again, what does emotional mean? Emotional is not about making people cry. No, that's not, it's not like we're going to do like a romantic movie or anything like that. Absolutely not. But it's about having a compelling story, having a vision for the future. It's about connecting, talking about the benefits of going in the direction that we're going. So to generate energy and generate, again, understanding and connection. What I have learned also is, and that's a question, right? Is like, what is our tendency, especially when you work with leadership teams, of using, again, emotional, probably it's a grown world, but it's like, are you talking enough about what drives you, what excites you, what your passion, why you're there in leading their organization? And oftentimes, it's very uncomfortable to even, make it, not you having those hard data, which again, it's not about not using the data. It's let's not avoid also the other side. And again, it's because we are humans, feel and then think. And that's, the base kind of like how humans make decisions. Again, it's not me, it's some psychology that has been telling me. And so what do we need to do? I've learned that to push hard, not give up, and make sure that when we work on the why statement for the organization, that both components are there. And again, like I said, I don't give up because I know that when I am experiencing the change, I want to know something more than just data. But also, what I've learned within this is, okay, we have the why statement. Great. And then it's how, what do? We send out the message. Okay, we've done the work. No, that's not enough. It's important to make sure that we understand, we know what people have understood about the message, and then we are ready to shuffle a bit and adapt it if needed. Because again, the goal is that we want to drive people through the change. And the other thing is that there is organizational why, and that's where everything starts with. Is this enough again? Not really, because people are going to come and in English, normally what they say, and it's interesting to translate it in other languages, but what's in it for me? Why do I have to do it? And the answer normally, it doesn't work saying like, oh, because I tell you to. I mean, you could. It really doesn't move action, right? And so helping people connect the dots, right? Connect between like, if this is organizational why, let's make sense why is also important to you. Of course, in our working environment and how it impacts you. And so it's really building this bridge between why is important for the organization and why is important for the individual. And again, and what is about why do we need to do this? And by the way, I'm using a tool that is the 5 whys that we use a lot in change management. Because engaging people leads to performance. So if we want to achieve the changes, we want to reach that objective, that goal, we have the vision and we want to go toward that and reach it, then engaging people in understanding, it's the minimum that we can do, and definitely it's a key to success. Of course, not everybody's going to be in it, right? I mean, there's going to be always some resistances, but the more we do it, the more we help people understand, the more community for change we have. And so I mentioned tools, right? And that's also one, oh my God. And the reason why I get into tools and I call them tools, blockers or enablers. Depending. I mean, do they facilitate the change or do they not facilitate the change? And really the word that I keep using, it's facilitation. What facilitates the change? As change practitioners, we know that what we have to do is like prepare and initiate and start, but then also make sure that the change stays and make it part of the daily life. And so what do we do? How do we do it? It's, okay, great, the why, but what do we do and how we do it? And so that's where tools come in place for us practitioners. And I know it's basic, but tools are everywhere. This is what I've learned. We can Google change management tools really and find so many things and get books, which I have a lot in my background here. But then they're really everywhere. And they're not necessarily change management tools, but they can become change management tools. Let me give you examples, and some will come what might result familiar. Of course, you have to know, you pick kind of like a reference of model because it gives you a flow and kind of like it helps you build the process of what you're going to do. But for example, at the very beginning, a SWOT analysis, that's not change management, but I do use it for change management. And I can use SWOT analysis with any kind of stakeholders. Who is involved in the change? Who's guiding the change? Who is a change team? Who is in the change team? Who can support me if I'm alone? And so that's when the stakeholder mapping, stakeholder matrix, stakeholder analysis comes in place. It takes different, and even on stakeholder, there are different tools. I'll give you an example here of something that actually we have created within my team. We were one day brainstorming, and this lady says like, I want to know what people, what can people gain? What are the pain points? What do they know they can support us and what they can do? And so they really created this, it's easy, right? I want to know the pains, the gains, the no's, and the do's. And so that's kind of like, if we tested it out, it worked very well. We gathered a lot of information and it helped us map the stakeholders. We need to create alignment within, for example, a leadership team. And I made the example here of a change canvas. Who is in the team? What is our vision? And actually in this change canvas, there are like 2 tools also, because there is like the feel for analysis is like, what can help us through the change, what will block the change, and then brainstorm on options and have kind of like a plan. And this is, again, it's an exercise, it's not really the plan, but it's an exercise to align within a team about where we are, where we're starting, what do we anticipate, maybe the challenges and opportunities, and what can we do. Lean Coffee comes from Agile Change Management. Super works great in physical, in virtual, to run meetings. And what it means is manage resistances, communication, and just keep people in the loop, but also engage. And finally, again, I made the example of like one part of like a change management process that I think is taken often for granted, but again, personally, I do insist to work on it, which is celebration. And it's like, and people think that they celebrate, yeah, we're going to celebrate when we reach the end. It's like, no, it's the in-betweens, have milestones. They're called the short wins. And so making an analysis and deciding where, what do we need to celebrate? If this is a short win, because maybe a project will take 2 years, what do we celebrate? Again, this keeps people engaged, motivated, etc. So, and these are just some examples. And definitely for me, they've been enabling tools, right? Not blockers. But getting to that, they can become blockers in the moment that, it's a lot. It feels like it's a lot. And so there is no ground in having better tools. Actually, let's keep it open. But the first things first to do is define the priority, which is really, what do I need? What do I need to do? In which phase am I? Am I preparing? So what do I need to do? And then go and pick. I need to analyze the situation. I need to define the vision. I need to create alignment. I need to have a communication plan, you name it. And so with that, you pick the tool. If you're not alone, and I wish you're not, because it can be really hard work, align with whoever you're working on the tools, right? So that everybody's working on the same tool. Mostly because now we're becoming digital and there is all this sharing on clouds. So let's make sure that everybody understands the tool, everybody knows how to use it. And we're kind of like also as a working team moving in the same direction. But do what you can. Don't push too much load on yourself, and do what makes sense for the organization. Tools are always, for me, there have been the hard, models and tools. It's definitely been like, oh my God, where do I start from? Well, start with exploring, and see the mindset is really about curiosity, exploring, discovering, and testing out things. Of course, working with consultants helps because they also bring other tools, assessments, you name it. I'm getting to the end with one, kind of one final. It's not the final. And this comes again inspiring from agile change management, lean change management, which is about the topic of co-creation. Normally, at least my experience has been, change management is normally guided from the top and it goes top down. And it's really, does it really create change? It does, maybe. And so what does it mean, co-creating? And I got here the definition. Internal co-creation is an approach in which employees design the future of their organization together with top management, instead of following a top-down command and control approach. It seeks to involve the employees affected by the change. And so the real question for me has been like, who do I involve? Do I involve everybody? Do I involve many people, just some people? And for me, definitely it's been not everybody, and even many, it's too many, but definitely some, because definitely it goes back to before, it's about engagement, it's about people knowing what's going on. And this makes kind of like change happens without saying that we're doing change, that we're changing really. Of course that, if you do more and more people, the impact is, it's even, you're not doing change, it's just really happening. But it's really hard, even co-creating with big numbers, it's really hard. The pro of doing co-creation of some sort of level, there is so much intelligence within teams. And that's the power. And so it's important, what I've learned, to leverage to leverage all of this collective intelligence that is in teams. I've learned that let's start with the top, taking for granted that the top is always involved. That's not been my case. Oftentimes the top management doesn't want to be involved. But they are the guiding, I use the words of Kotter, they are the guiding coalitions. So they need to be there in the co-creation. What I mean is like, let's co-design. Let's co-design an action plan. I mean, first the direction and the action plan. And I've learned that, don't limit to that. So involve more people, people from functions, maybe a manager of a department, director of a department with people from other functions. It's kind of like cross-pollinate. It's important though that leadership teams do believe in this work. And again, we avoid this top down, right? So like if we involve people, it's a decision of everybody in the room. And it's the power doesn't stay in the top management. That's also, it depends on the culture within the organization, but definitely it's what works. It's hard, like I said, it's hard because in its processing, in its guidance, it just cannot be left in its timing. And it's like very serious. It's not a game just because we put people together in the same room. And so it sounds amazing. It's hard, but it has the benefits. And so my learning has been start small with small involvement and see how it works and see how it influences the process and see how it influences the project. But the condition necessarily is that there is listening and the ideas that are being shared and brainstormed together are taken into account and implemented. This is not just I listen to you and then I decide and take credit for the great idea. That doesn't work. That actually is going to create a block, if anything. But believe in the collective intelligence. I love what can come out of like mix of teams and mix of levels in the organization. Finally, last but not least, and I let this slide come to you because it's a bit of like a repetition for sure, but in everything, the key ingredient, and I don't have much more to say, it's communicate, 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 and communicate some more. Is there enough communication? There is never enough communication. And it's extremely powerful. And I chose here in exactly the image of a pando. I don't know if you know what a pando is. First comes from the Latin word, from Latin, and it means eye spread. And it's known as, maybe Google it because it's beautiful. It's known as the trembling giant. It's actually a colony of 40,000 stems of a tree, the quaking aspen. It's trembling because it's like these tall trees that with the wind, the leaves tremble. And it's actually in Utah, in the US. And why it's particular, because it's 40,000 stems, like I said, so individual trees that actually make one tree because they're all interconnected in a massive underground root system. And is considered as the biggest living organism on Earth. And why I chose the pando and linked to the communication is because nature shows us the power of possibilities and the ability to endure when there is interconnections. And interconnections comes if we keep communication open and people, right, kind of like holding hands. Of course, we don't have to hold hands in organizations, but you understand what I mean. So let's try to be more and more pandos and believe really in what the power of interconnection can do in organization. If it still right to today, it's, I kind of like forget how many years of life this pando has. And this is the end. Thank you very much. I think I took more time than what I was granted. I hope you find this useful, helpful, and it's just, again, makes you go into Googling or exploring more than you already do on your daily basis. So Thank you very much. And I also try to open the other platform now.
Thank you. Întrebări?
And this first again makes you go into Googling or...
Dacă avem în platformă.
Hi. So a couple of questions from our attendees. The first one, which model would you recommend for a company with a large percentage of blue collars? Maria Luz, did you hear me? Can you hear me?
Did I understand correctly that it's which one in terms of like model?
Yeah, which model would you recommend for a company with a
Yeah.
large
Can you hear me?
percentage of blue collars? Yes, now we can hear you, yeah.
Yeah. My microphone is on. Oops. Hello?
So we can hear you. Did you hear the question? Yeah, which model would you recommend for a company with a large percentage of blue collars? Yes, now we can hear you.
Okay, I think we have, I'm seeing that we have some delay. Interesting. Yeah. I think it's interesting, and it's honestly my personal opinion. Yeah, I think I'm seeing that we have some delay.
Maria Luz, you can just turn on mute the My Connector platform, yeah? Because you're hearing everything in Zoom, so no need to keep that.
So I'm trying to respond knowing that I know we have some delay in the connection. I stick with there is no one size fits all, but I think for a population of blue collar, what is important is to keep things simple. And so it's not just pick the model of reference, but also, and sorry, I don't want to have like one answer because it will not be correct and kind of like going against really what I've learned. Keep it simple. I mean, what do we people need to understand? For me, definitely what has worked, one model that it's simple and it helps explain the change to people. It's definitely the Kubler-Ross model. And the Kubler-Ross model, it connects really with what's going on, what happens to me, and what can happen to everybody in the organization. And and it's a curve, and it's a curve that explains that when change happens, I have like a first moment of like, oh yeah, I'm okay kind of thing, but then it goes down and I don't understand, and there is frustration. The performance goes down. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. But then the more I learn, the more I come out of the curve and I am part of the change. And I definitely have been using this as one model to help people understand that we're going to do this and we're all going to get effective in different ways. And where are you in the curve? How do you feel today? And by the way you feel today, it's not the way that you're going to feel tomorrow. And so definitely the change curve or the Kubler-Ross curve helps people understand how the change works. And it's not just at work, really, at the working environment, but in life in general.
And another one, how important is it to engage leaders, managers in the change process? And I think this is meant to be, how do you do that?
It's one of the most important things to do, and to do, like I use the word, don't give up, perseverance, and it's the first ingredient. It's, you know, when you say like first things first, I need to make a pizza, I need to make a recipe, and you need water and you need flour, and without that you're never gonna get a pizza. That's kind of like the thing. And so how do you do that? Sometimes I get resistances on that, and I think it's more about sticking with the plan. I'm not gonna do a plan if I don't have a leadership team involved, and it doesn't have to be the whole leadership team, but members of the leadership team. Members of the leadership team, that the first thing they do is really defining the why statement. And so I think that how you do it is about influencing techniques, really, like how do you influence, and the best ingredient for influencing is knowing what you're doing and knowing what you're saying. And so, and then I refer to another model, right? For me, the one model that really explains a lot on how to do this and why this is important is the Kotter model. One of the steps, in fact, is building the guiding coalition. And I have to admit, it's definitely been the hardest, but also the one that when you start doing, even when you achieve it in one project, I'm talking about my current context, so manufacturing industry, when you achieve it in one context, the word spreads, and so the good work then finds its way. And the way I do it also is workshops, you know, getting them together, discussing, assessing the team, how strong is the leadership team, how well is connected, what is the level of trust. One tool that, for example, I use is a Lencioni assessment on the dysfunctions of the team. And so analyzing, are there any dysfunctions in the team? Where are we, you know, on level of trust, accountability, etc. So starting from a point of like being very aware where the leadership team is, and then defining why we are important for this change and what do we need to do. And so this is the how. Of course, it could take like longer, the answer, but I hope this helps.
Thank you so much, Maria Luz. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.